Today's topic is tapping into our knowing and expanding beyond our five senses. So it should be fun. And I know lots of you out there have experiences with tapping into other awareness beyond our five senses. So maybe we can have some lively sharing today. I hope so. Anyway, before we get started, let's just take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen just flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing every cell, all your organs, and bringing vital life energy into every part of your body. And as you exhale, exhale any stress, any tension. And now let's just take another deep breath in through your nose. Hold it and imagine clean, brilliant, bright, vibrant light just filling you up, electrifying you and energizing you. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension or stress. And now let's just gently press our palms together and softly, softly, softly rub your fingers against your palms and feel the sensations and the texture and the tingling and the tickling, and allow yourselves to become present right here, right now. Good morning, and welcome, Andrea. So good to have you here. And welcome to everyone else who's joining us. Let's talk about expanded perception, because that's really what we're talking about when we talk about tapping into our knowing and our perception that goes beyond the senses that we're currently aware of. Our five senses. We have spoken, culturally, we are familiar with the notion of a sixth sense, but I don't know that it's perfectly defined. However, I do believe that it goes into the realm of our knowing that goes beyond things that we can currently scientifically prove. So we've all experienced the situation where you might be in a room and your back is to the door or whatever, somebody walks into the room and you can feel that there's a new presence in the room. So there's something happening, there's some kind of perception, even if it isn't through our traditional five senses, that is an awareness that we have. We have a sense when we meet other people about those people, about their energy. We have that sense of or that perception, that experience of the nature of that person, perhaps. And we also often have, good morning, Tammy, welcome. We're talking about expanding our knowing beyond our senses, our five senses, into additional senses, like maybe cultivating expanded perception. And I think a lot of us have had experiences with dreams where we've received messages in dreams, or perhaps we've had precognitive dreams, or in meditation, messages come through. Where's that coming from? What is that knowing? When we talk about connecting with our guides, there's some kind of perception or awareness that goes beyond our traditional awareness of our five senses, or beyond the definition of our traditional five senses. Sometimes we can have an experience of a knowing that is more real than pretty much anything else that we have ever gleaned through our five senses. So I'm wondering if you have experiences you'd like to share in this arena, because I'm so fascinated by it. And I believe that we as a planet and as a global family, and with all the other creatures on this planet, I believe that we are going through an evolution of consciousness. And I'm going to mention that on the 21st of this month, there is a really big conjunction of a bunch of different planets. And I don't know if you put credence into astrology or not, but I think that astrology can reflect a lot of the dynamics that happen in the world. I mean, I've spoken with people who are really good astrologers, and it's remarkable the correlations between what what their perceptions are and what happens as a general rule, and also in specific. Anyway, that's my experience. It's as good as a practitioner is. I'm sure that not all astrological information is um, is provided with the same expertise. But anyway, there's this massive conjunction of the planets happening. And, if you think about it, we know how, not that I'm making a case for astrology, but this is how I think about it in my mind, because it kind of makes sense. It does make sense that the planets would affect us. Why? Because we can see, just as an example, how the moon affects the tides, right? We see how the moon affects the ocean and the tides, and there are really strongly documented cases of people, particularly in mental facilities, around the full moon. It's really, really clear, and people's driving patterns and all kinds of other things change around the full moon. It would make sense, because we are such a high percentage of water. If the moon is affecting a big body of water like the ocean, why wouldn't it affect us? And if the moon affects us, we also know that the sun affects us if we don't get sunlight. And we know how dreary we can feel when we don't experience the sun. So it makes sense to me anyway that it's likely that these other planets are impacting us in ways that we may or may not understand. So good morning, Tammy. Tammy says, our world is filled with so many mysteries. I agree. And there's so much joy and curiosity and adventure in that, for me anyway. I hope so for you too. Good morning, Irma, and good morning, Dido. Great to have you all here today. Thank you. Thank you. So we're talking about expanding our senses, expanding our perception into the realms that we don't yet have words to describe. And I know that certainly in this Enlightened World Network audience, there are many people who do channeling, who speak with angels, who are very connected to this other dimension of knowing that goes beyond our five senses, and people who have psychic experiences and precognitive experiences, and people who are tuned into other dimensions of communication. And so why I started talking about this conjunction that's happening on the 21st of December is it's the first time in hundreds and hundreds of years that there's this configuration of the planet somehow. And there's another, I'm not an astrology expert, obviously. I'm not going to pretend to be, but in any case, there's something big coming up. And what I've heard about it is that it is going to create a greater awakening, that it is sort of an opening into a new dimension of spiritual awareness and connection and oneness. And there's also a lot of upheaval happening too. Obviously, we've been experiencing that, but interestingly, the planetary positions correlate with the disruption, challenging of law. We're seeing that with the election transition, so apparently that's reflected also in what's happening astrologically. But at the same time that all of these changes are, or the upheaval is taking place, apparently there's a transition that is being heralded into a greater era of cooperation and sort of horizontal leadership and alignment rather than moving away from hierarchy into a more distributed sort of governance, perhaps. I don't know if it means literally government or not, but just a spirit of cooperation. So anyway, uh, why how I'm co-joining these two things is that this big celestial event is supposed to be opening up new portals of awareness. And I think so many of us have an experience of the veil thinning, that our access to other knowing has become greater, that maybe we're getting more messages when we meditate, maybe we're sensing things before they happen more, maybe we're thinking of things and then they happen, maybe we're manifesting more effectively. uh, I think that this has been a passage that has been happening for some time, uh, and collectively we're evolving more into this broader awareness and a sense of shared responsibility and perhaps a new notion of justice and possibility. But let's bring it back to a personal level. What does it mean to have this broader experience and potentially to be more connected with our nature as spiritual beings? It's kind of an exciting prospect. It's a really exciting prospect to me. I've had some very interesting experiences and I have enjoyed them very much, and most of them, and at times I've been a little bit frightened by them, but I am excited about the prospect of being able to perhaps perceive uh, the energy that is the universe rather than the things that we perceive, the energy that they are, to be able to move through. I'm just dreaming about possibilities here. So I'm inviting you to dream with me, to imagine that we know that everything around us is made of more space than matter, and yet we interact with things as though it is matter and it is solid, because if we don't, we end up getting bruised or bloody sometimes, right? If you walk into the wall, you can get bruised, right? So I'm dreaming of the possibility that perhaps matter will not be as solid, that we'll be able to interact with material um, material reality in a very different way. And I'm not anticipating that this is going to happen on the 21st. Please don't misconstrue that. I am, though, speaking about elevating our awareness to such a point that it's possible to interact with matter as um, a more fluid kind of experience, where we could put our hand through a wall without breaking our hand or breaking the wall, for instance, or I've always believed that it's possible because I've seen lots um, of uh, recounting of stories of people doing really remarkable things, like bilocating or or levitating or any number of other kinds of things, traveling in dreams. I know people who have been able to have lucid dreams and project themselves to another place and actually visit people in this astral sleep state, and with full recollection and with recollection of the people that they visited. So these phenomena that are documented and uncommon may become more common, like being able to move material objects with your mind. I mean, that's been documented that people have the capacity to do that, or to be able to, for instance, project to a place and time, and find out, see what's there and report it. So you may or may not know, I think it was in the 70s, I think it was the CIA had a program called the Shaman Spies. And these people were trained in something called remote viewing. And as remote viewers, they did all kinds of double and triple blind kinds of studies with these folks to essentially have them project their consciousness to different places on the planet, where they would then report what they saw there. And what they discovered is that people were able not only to travel to different locations, but they were able to travel to different points in time. And it's such fascinating stuff, because this was government sponsored, believe it or not. But the name of a couple of the astral travelers and remote viewers. So Tammy says remote viewing, astral travel. It's pretty much the same idea, right? There's a guy named Joe McMoneagle and another guy named Inigo Swan, and there are more. But these folks were able to project themselves into other places and come back with accurate information about military facilities and all kinds of other things. And in fact, some of them went on to become consultants, where they actually go into the future and they bring back technology. And it's such a fascinating thing to be playing in the realm of the beyond. Let's call it the beyond. There's also an organization called the Monroe Institute. And years ago, I had the real pleasure and privilege, the pleasure and privilege of going to the Monroe Institute. And this was a long time ago, but Robert Monroe was a very successful broadcast celebrity, and he had an enlightenment experience. No, he had an astrally projecting experience where he was out of his body, and it wasn't something that anybody in this country really was talking about at that time. It was way ahead of the time. And he went and got brain scans. He thought he was nuts, and finally encountered somebody that said, go to India. Folks there know about this. They've been doing this for centuries and centuries, and they're very very attuned to it. And Robert Monroe said, no, I'm not going to go to India. I'm going to go set up an institute here for study. And that's the Monroe Institute. And Robert Monroe has since passed, but the Monroe Institute still exists. And one of the things that they did, because he was a broadcast person and very much into sound and music, what they did was they developed the technology of binaural beats. And the binaural beats help to regulate brain wave patterns and to assist us in accessing other dimensions of awareness. And so this is really common technology now that's implemented in lots of different meditation tapes and lots of different music. But the binaural beats is was developed by the Monroe Institute, as far as I'm aware. And so when I was there, they had these little cubbies and headsets, and it was sort of this little enclosed cubby area where it was totally dark, and you got to listen to these recordings and access different dimensions of consciousness and knowing. And uh, I was very, very, very frustrated at the time, I have to say, because I would go to sleep. And so I got a lot of good sleep there. But there were a couple occasions where we did walking meditation kind of thing. And I had some really interesting experiences that way as well. So it made me become much more aware of these other dimensions of awareness and consciousness and knowing. And Dido, thank you very much. Dido posted a link to the Monroe Institute if you want to check out what they do and what they're up to. So I also, I think I was 17, I took a course from an organization that at the time was called the Silva Mind Control Method, and now I believe it's called the Silva Healing Method. But it was what we now might call meditation, self-hypnosis, guided intention. But it was there that I learned that we could access knowing that we didn't know. And so the graduation test with the Silva Mind Control course was to be given somebody's name and the city where they're from, and to tune in and to get a sense of what was going on with them. They had some kind of medical condition, and I did it, and it was so interesting. I think the first person that whose name I was given was I'm thinking was alcoholic and had some kind of maybe liver dysfunction. The second person, I remember what happened was I tuned in and my limbs just sort of started curling up, and it turned out that this person was quadriplegic and had had some kind of accident. And so it was really, really interesting. It was also where I first learned how to do hands-on healing, or, healing, energy healing, from using my hands. And so this introduction to these other senses, these other areas of knowing that defy our current scientific explanations for the most part, have always been a deep, deep fascination for me. And when I heard that this astrological thing is happening, that should be opening up more expansive awareness, I got really excited, and I am really excited. I love this stuff because what I do know is that what we perceive is the tiniest fraction of what is here to know. And so our knowing is so vastly limited when we restrict ourselves to our five senses and our beliefs and our ideas and our identities. And that's why I talk all the time about freedom and releasing ourselves from our beliefs, because I personally want the freedom to be present to what's really here and what's available. And it's so much more vast than most of us even, I think it's more vast than any of us can conceive. How's that? Even if we have a really expansive view of the world. And Dido put in the link for the Silva Mind Institute, and it looks like it's Silva Ultra Mind now. So they're evolving because mind control isn't really popular, isn't really something that has a positive connotation, right? So if we go to Ultramind, that could open up new doors and be better received. So anyway, I'm rambling, but you can understand that I obviously am excited about this prospect of the veil thinning to allow us greater access to the broader reality that exists. I don't believe that we in our limited perception have the capacity to access reality with a capital R. We get maybe signals or pointers or indicators from it, like if there were a submarine that was giving signals periodically, what we get is the signals. We don't get the submarine or the ocean that it's in. And anything that expands that capacity to recognize those signals is something that's very exciting to me. And maybe it's exciting to you. So you might want to take a look on Dr. Google and find out what is happening on the 21st in terms of these planetary changes and what possibly might be opening up to us, and how we can maximize that experience to open our consciousness and our perception to something broader. So I hope you have the excitement about it that I do, because for me it feels like it's a vast unknown, which to me is really exciting. And I just imagine it being such a wealth of awakening and experience, and like a playground. So I just invite you to have a lot of fun with it and explore. And I'm going to call it a day today. So I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page every weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. And it is such a pleasure and such a privilege to join you and be joined by you on these mornings. It lights up my day. So I hope that that's the same for you, and I'm so grateful for your participation and sharing the time. And I invite you to check out the other awesome programming on Enlightened World Network's Facebook page. And until next time, I just want to say thank you so much love, and enjoy